How's it going, my fellow Flesh and Blood Ninja players? So today I have a deck tech for you. It's my second version, but it's a much better one. It is going to be Fai Rising Rebellion. So I didn't end up winning an armory for this, so I thought it was a good time to start discussing this build that I have. So of course, as normal, I feel, we're running 2 of the Kodachis, which just really helps with the equipment line that I'll be showing you here shortly. So we're starting with a Tiger Stripe Shuko. Really does help when you have attacks that are 2 or less, which you have quite a few in here, and it's going to help pump it, even though stubby hammers would be the better choice, but we no longer have access to that. Then we have Mask of Momentum. This is where the Kodachis really help out, because with the blue you can double Kodachi and still have a floating resource for other things. And Fai is known to go at least like 3 to 6 wide, so you're going to be triggering this mask at least twice. I have Fendel's Spring Tunic as my main piece. So this just really helps for you to have that resource every 3 turns, even if you're not using it right away. It's just really nice to have that kind of like in your weapon arsenal. Oh, sorry about that, took out one of my lights. There we go. We'll get rid of that. So just for the boots, I have the Snapdragon Scalers. You have a lot of 1 or 0 costs in this deck, so it's a really good boot to run to help give your stuff some go again. Alright, now we're going to start talking about the main deck. It's 60 cards. We're going to start with the 2 Phoenix Flames. So Fai's ability is you start a game with 1 in graveyard, and then is a once per turn instant, cost 3. Return a Phoenix Flame from graveyard into your hand, but it does cost 1 resource less for each Draconic Chain Link I control. So I've noticed a lot of people only run 1 to do the graveyard stuff, but I like to have the second to pitch into things, and you can use it as a resource. So I think it's a viable reason to have 2. And one way to kind of fish that out, we have 3 Flamecall Awakenings. It does cost 1, which will help if you're going to be pitching a blue. And it'll allow you to get a Phoenix Flame from deck into hand. And that'll allow you to pitch in to either Fai's ability if you don't have the full link, or you can use it for something that costs 1. And I have 3 Mounting Angers here. So this is one of the things you could pitch a second Phoenix Flame into, or you could use it with a blue pitch. It's a very good on-hit trigger because it'll buff your next attack. Even if it's a 0 cost, all you have to do is play this once and you can do that. And it could be any card. Then we got 3 Razor Reflexes. This really does help if you're in a bind and you need something with Go Again. And it busts for 3. So either way, it's just a win-win for this card. I have 3 Blaze Headlongs here. You're running a ton of red in here. I believe I'm only running 9 blues and 4 yellows. So it's very easy for you to get the Go Again trigger off of this. But that's also where the Razor Reflex or your boots can come in if you're in a bind. Then I have 3 Snatches. This is a very good on-hit draw, and that's mainly what you want to keep your boots active for, is for this to have a Go Again, or you can use that at the end of a chain to put in a card in arsenal. And you can also use Razor Reflex for this. Then I have 3 Enlightened Strikes. So just a very nasty card. Razor Reflex can help into it. You have your boots, so you can do the buffs. You can also use that second Phoenix Flame that you would get out of your deck to put that card into the bottom with the E-Strikes, which I think is a very good viable resource because it's not losing any value out of your hand. Then I have 3 Ravenous Rabbles. Because we're running so heavy in red, it's very easy for you to be coming in for 4. But I have definitely gotten into some situations that ended up being a blue, and you just have a good laugh about it. I mean, it's Fi, it's all aggro, and those are kind of the gambles that you're going to be taking. Then I have 3 Lava Vein Loyalties. This one's kind of a you could do with or do without kind of card, but I do just really like it because it's a simple 0 for 3. Sometimes it is tough for you to have the 2 Draconic Chains when you have stuff that requires a red card beforehand. It's just kind of like another of those. But worst case scenario, you could always Razor Reflex, you could break boots, but you can just sometimes just have a slow turn or use it to block for 3 for something if you really need to. Then I have 3 red Double Strikes. This is just a really good way to go wider into your chains because you can actually use it twice. And it also can trigger off your Tiger Stripe Shukos because it's second base attack or less. So you can swing in for 1, then swing in for 2. So it's technically like a 2 wide card that's coming in for 3. Then we have 3 Ancestral Empowerments. You don't have all ninja cards, but you do have a lot, which does still make this very viable. And then you can also draw a card before the attack resolves, so you can really help get either like another buff, and you can also pressure the mass trigger with it as well. Then I have 3 Lava Bursts. It is a 0 for 2, but if you have the Chain Link 4 or higher, which is very easy for Fi to do, you're going to have +3, so it will come in for 5. You can also play off of the Tiger Stripes with this. If you end up getting the Phoenix Flame from Graveyard and you had nothing else that was 2 or less, you play the Phoenix Flame and this can come in for 6 instead of 5. So a 0 for 5 is just silly good. Or even a 0 for 6. Then I have 3 Rising Resentments. Mostly just use it for a 0 for 3, but it has a little extra flavor in it. So if it does hit, if I do have at least 2 Draconics or more, you can just banish a 1 cost from hand and then you can play it for free rather than paying for the cost. So it does help when you're in that situation, you can use it. Then I have 3 Ronin Renegades. Pretty simple, just a 0-3 go again, and it's a Draconic Ninja, so it kind of fills in everything that you need for this deck. Now we're finally done with all the full reds. We are going to show the first rainbow. It's the only rainbow that I run, which is Brand of Cinderclaw. It gives your next attack Draconic, which really helps into your Kodachis or Snatch or anything generic that you have running in there. And that helps you with your Fi ability and again, like Lava Vein getting go again and everything else. So definitely not a bad card to run at all. Now I'm running 3 Stab Wounds. This works really well into the daggers because if it hits, they lose a life for each dagger that's hit. So something really good for endgame. If they end up letting the Kodachis go through, then say you only threatening for 2, you can be threatening for 3 or 4. And yeah, it's just a really good for a 0 pitch for 3 block. Then I have 3 Warmonger Diplomacies. I have realized that it does help into more matchups than just like a Ranger. And it's a 0 pitch for 3 block, so it's an all-around good card for Fi. It's not something you're always going to use, but if you feel like you need it, you're going to be very happy to have it. And then it's not burning up a sideboard slot either. And unfortunately, these are in German, just for others that can't read it. But if you know German, then great, you already know everything that this does. But I am just going to explain it a little bit more for English viewers like myself. It is Art of War. I run 2 of them. It is a 1 cost, but what's really nice is you get to choose 2 of these 4 options. The one is attack action cards will gain either +1 attack or +1 defense for the rest of the turn, which you're mainly going to use it for the attack, but if you are in that really crappy bind, you can defend and have a buff of that as well. You could also get your next attack action card, Go Again, is the second option. The third option is you're able to use attack action cards from Arsenal to block. And then the fourth choice is you get to banish an attack action card from hand, and when you do, you get to draw 2 cards. So it's not exactly what it says on the card, but that is everything that it does. If I am slightly wrong in any way, please let me know in the comments, but I think I'm pretty spot on about it. But the main 2 things that you're generally going to do is buff your attacks for 1 for the turn, and you're going to banish an attack action card to draw 2. It is a bit of a gamble because you really don't know what you're going to draw into, but it does really help. And since it's an instant, you can surprise people on a mass trigger with it. If this is something that you don't feel like you want to run, or if it's too expensive for you, there is a card that he has called Spreading Flames, and that allows your stuff to get +1 depending on how many Draconics you have in the chain link. So that's another option too if you don't feel like this is a good one for you. And last but not least, Salt the Wound. Any experienced player knows exactly what this does, but it is a 0 for 2, but it does get +1 for each attack that has hit this combat chain, which is just nasty good in the Fi. So I only run 2 because it is kind of more of a closer to me. Running 3 I think becomes a little too much because I feel like you only really want to see 1, because there's going to be that one time when you go like extremely wide and they're taking in all that damage, and you can just really, salt the wound. Also, if you were using a lot of 3 attacks and you end up doing the Phoenix Flame to salt the wound, the Tiger Stripe Shukos will also come into effect to buff it an extra attack as well. So that is my main build. I am pretty happy with it. It can be very nasty. I am going to talk about my sideboard pieces now. So one thing I do is a Flamescale Furnace. I just have it as a sideboard. It could be your main as well. This is more or less for like your heavy hitter opponents, because you have the temper to block 2 at least. And it's also really good into the Mechanologist to help not get your Mask of Momentum broken or your Tiger Stripes. The only problem with this is with my build, you're typically not pitching a whole lot, so the once per turn instant doesn't really do much for you at all, and it is kind of harder for you to try and start pitching your 1 cost, but it is extremely worth to have when you're going into certain matchups. I have no Rune Gloves, just an Arcane Barrier 1 for when you run into Runeblade opponents. It's not a bad thing to have. And I think your Tiger Stripe is one of your least viable pieces in the full equipment set. And the last one that kind of goes off of the flame scale furnace, I run 3 reinforced align. It really helps because Command and Conquer can't do shit with this. It does beef up your block as a +4. It's a really good thing to kind of have sit in an arsenal, and you can end up blocking potentially 7, which does help against like your Bravos, Azalea players, anything that you really need to fully block out that attack. Alright, now the rest of this sideboard, or no, never mind. I still have one more thing. And this goes off of the Nuln gloves. This is Oasis Respite that does cover your potential Kano plays, or if you feel like you need some extra blocking. So this is kind of like my arcane sideboard here. And then this is for my heavy hit kind of sideboard that you need. So the rest is mainly focused around his other weapon, which is the Searing Ember Blade. If you're going to run anything with like Frailty, you're going to need something like this. So that mainly goes into like Azuri or Azalea. And those are kind of your weakest matchups too. So 2 cards that I kind of use to build around that. I have a Soul Bead Strike. Since Stab Wounds is no longer going to be viable with the daggers, I just kind of use this instead for the 0 for 2. And you have a potential go again. So just kind of gives it a little bit more value when you're running that Ember Blade. And the last one is Breaking Point. Because you're easily going to do 4 chain links or higher, it's nice. And it just makes it like a cheaper Command and Conquer. Because instead of it coming for 6, it's for 5. But it is only going to be a 1 pitch for you, and you're still going to end up threatening their arsenal. And you really only need it if you're going against like a ranger. Alright, so that is the build. I hope you all liked it. It can definitely be worked on, or you can change a couple of things to make it more your style. But this is how I like to run it, and I think it runs pretty darn good. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next week. Take care, everyone.